All right, welcome back to our second game here. And we have a ZVZ on Cloud Kingdom, which looks to be pretty exciting. We had a pretty good ZVZ on Cloud Kingdom yesterday. And our first player up in the top right-hand corner, spawning into the green Zerg, it is...
440 Gaming, the Giant Gnome.
And his opponent in the bottom left of Cloud Kingdom, representing a different clan tag than what you're going to hear me say in this introduction, your red Zerg player.
Cannabidiol, Vitros.
Lings in the natural, Lings in the main. Uh-oh.
Yep, Vitros has quite a few links. He built his pool quite a bit earlier than the Giant Gnome and actually comes out quite the worse off in this engagement. The good drone surround, though, should take care of all of these with just one worker loss. Really nice micro. He actually pulled back a couple of injured drones there, but these two Lings are going to continue being a threat. They can run around and try and get the middle line and snipe drones, but the Queen's really going to help zone them out, so they shouldn't get too much damage done. However, this does, of course, give Vitros valuable scouting information. He knows his opponent hasn't taken any gases and it's likely going to be a gasless expand. Of course, he has also done the same sort of thing himself, so there's not that much he can do about it right now. Although the Giant Gnome is actually building quite a big swell of Lings, and without speed or anything, they're going to take a long time to get across the map. This is really interesting. A big slow Ling, Olen.
Yeah, we'll see if this is going to work out for him. Giant Gnome kind of, going for a counter from that first attack. It really went in his favor, so at this point, I think he's kind of going with the whole, well, he lost a bunch of Lings, and so he's either joining up or he's making Lings back home. And either way, I'm going to find out because, you know what, here's a bunch of Lings for you. Vitros is going to go ahead and see what's coming because, of course, he has Overlords in all the right positions spread across the map. They're going to see it the entire way here. So we do see a bunch of Evo Chambers go down to block off that natural, and that should be about it to hold it off. You don't really need much more than that, do you?
Not really, but there is one of those Evo Chambers is quite exposed, and these the Giant Gnome is going to start focusing down. You can't transfuse buildings until they're completed, much like repair. So the Queens are going to do damage here, but they're not much else. However, yeah, Vitros continually improving his wall, really nice, and those two Queens are going to form another wall. The Broodlings as well, really help in these kind of situations. The Giant Gnome is actually just going to crash up on Vitros' wall and really not do that much else. The Queens, you can transfuse them after they finish building, and they
yeah, they're actually, he's gonna lose one queen. I don't know if he had enough energy for transfusing the other one, but another queen goes down, and it looks like Giant Gnome got 2 queen kills for, I guess, what was essentially just a crap ton of Lings. I don't know how much that's gonna go in favor of him, but we do see missile attacks go down for our red Zerg player Vitros, and of course he's got the Roach Warren already up into the natural, so his Lings are going to make their way across the map now, but Roach Warren already done for Giant Gnome, and we do see Lings on the way for the Giant Gnome, I guess, called in defensively, and you know what, no Roaches on the field for either player.
Yeah, no, and Vitros should be able, the Giant Gnome is pretty well able to hold off what Vitros' little push out there, but yeah, during that big slow Ling all end, the Giant Gnome trades about 30 or so Lings for an Evo Chamber and 2 Queens. And that's not the world's best trade, but behind it, he's got double gas up, and he's going for a pretty fast lair with the without the 2 gases being taken in the natural yet, and with ranged attacks. I think he's going to go into Roaches rather than Mutalist. He actually might be able to focus down this Evo Chamber, denying the upgrade, which would be quite nice.
Wow, yeah,
that's pretty
is a
good.
big pickup.
A little bit extra damage done from his earlier push. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Gives him a decent upgrade advantage now.
That is a big pickup, and so what's the tell for an Evo Chamber when it's upgrading?
It's all wiggles around as well. Like all Zerg Chambers just wiggle a bit. You see this Roach Warren? The Roach pokes his head out sometimes when it's researching.
Yeah, so that's for those of you who are just not maybe the best. Yeah, he's poking his little cute head out of his little Warren. Oh, yeah, there he goes. Hello, Steve. That's Steve the Roach for you, ladies and gentlemen. To let you know that the Roach Warren is upgrading Roach speed. So in case you didn't know, you can tell every single building that's gonna have upgrades in it. I'm pretty sure you can tell if they're going to be upgrading or not. With the Tech Lab on the on Terran Barracks, they emit that little Vespine glow. Of course, you see the spinning around on like any sort of Protoss building. So you can find these things out and target them.
Yeah, and that can give you valuable information as to what your opponent's doing. Because both players have seen that their Evo Chambers are wiggling, which means that it's almost certainly not going to be Mutalisks. I don't want to speak in absolutes because you see some weird things down in low leagues. But yeah, generally, obviously, because there's so much gas gone into these upgrades, both players have spent about 250 gas on upgrades. That's their Spire and half a Mutalisk, or like a Mutalisk and their Lair. So it's generally not what we can see. We can see actually the contrast here in Vitros's base. Like the Evo chamber on the top is wiggling a bit, and the Evo chamber on the bottom just started wiggling. God damn it, Vitros!
Why aren't you keeping in tow with what we're trying to talk about here? But yeah, no, that is what we were trying. We are going to see one upgrade about a fish, and so we might be able to show you finally what the difference is. It's going to take a little bit, but it's going to stop wiggling. Everybody focus. Hold on, stop. There it is.
There we go.
No more wiggling.
Today
not
we have learned a valuable
lesson. That one is target that one, not the other one. That's how you know. It's a thing. It comes down to it. Oh well, maybe I'm a little bit more excited than I need to be. We do have the game stabilizing a little bit here in the mid game at the 12-minute mark. Third hatchery going down for the Giant Gnome, already completed, and Jones transferred for Vitros. So what little advantage we do have in terms of the economy is going to see itself out here play a little bit later, of course, not for some time. We do have a Hydralisk Den go down for Giant Gnome. And so the last ZVZ we casted on Cloud Kingdom, which was yesterday, I believe, we saw a ZVZ in which one player who chose Penguin, who went Roach Hydra, lost to Soldier Victus, who went, I think it was Soldier Victus, who went Roach Baneling.
Yeah. Giant Gnome, no Baneling Nest in sight, but he's just going to go for straight Roaches, which does mean he doesn't really have an answer for the Hydralisk, other than just...
No. Giant Gnome's going Hydralisks, and Vitros is going just straight Roaches.
Yeah. So Vitros doesn't really have an answer for the Hydralisks, other than just having tons of Roaches, but he's actually getting his Hydra's
going down now.
It's just going to be a little bit later. So both players going for sort of Roach Hydra builds, and this is quite a passive game. It's sort of what I'd expect from two gasless openings. Neither player can really do that much damage to the other. Of course, the Giant Gnome tried anyway, and so he's only just saturating that third base, whereas Vitros hasn't made any workers for a while. We see that reflecting the army supply.
Yeah, and the upgrades are, like you were talking about, they're kind of a little bit ahead for Vitros. I think they're slightly ahead for Vitros. We do have range coming in, I believe, for the Hydras of the Giant Gnome. Of course, getting that +1 attack is so important on the range for Hydras, and I believe they've already gone through for they already went through for... No, they haven't gone through for Vitros yet. So, I mean, if he takes an engagement early on, he might be able to make his Hydras pay themselves off. Vitros pushing out with a lot of Roaches here. He's almost maxed out on his supply. And this is where it comes down to it. The engagements on this map are so difficult because he's going to have to come up a ramp. And the Giant Gnome sees the army. His Overlord's just chilling right there. Vitros is attacking. Yeah, he's flanking from the top. So now the concave is going to be a little bit more even. The flank comes in from Vitros at the top. The Giant Gnome doing what he can, but they get right at the natural. And now, of course, Revolutionary War style fighting, ladies and gentlemen. It's just Roach on Roach with some Hydras in the back.
Yeah, and Vitros has so many Roaches. The Hydras count a little bit more even, but I think Vitros has the advantage even there. And he is absolutely pummeling through the Giant Gnome's army. Hydralisk Roaches falling left and right for the Giant Gnome. Drones came off the line, and their numbers are dropping rapidly too. And I think Vitros is going to power through this third base. I'm not even sure if the Giant Gnome can beat him on the Remax. Vitros had 21 Roaches in production just then. They're going to take a little while long to get across the map, but the Giant Gnome still doesn't look like he's got enough Roaches to take this, I don't think.
Yeah, this is looking really bad for Vitros. He's got like a 90 supply lead. The Broodlings are going to die, and now they're going to lose that advantage too. The Giant Gnome just has Roaches, and Hydras in the back putting out a lot of DPS is never really what you want to take. Unfortunately for the Giant Gnome, he's been on the ropes here, and he doesn't have really much of production at all. 7 Roaches on the way. Meanwhile, we've got an Infestation pick going down for Vitros, looking to just continue seizing the advantage. Going to go ahead and take a 4th and pressure this natural here. He's likely going to see a quick GG. I guess not a quick GG, but yeah, there's the G. So quicker than usual because it was only 1 G. So 100% faster, ladies and gentlemen, on the G.
All right, hello, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are on Overgrowth for our second game and our first player up 1-0, and if he wins this, he'll advance on to the winner's match to face Coldflame. We have, representing number 1, Great RTS. What?
The red Zerg saber. Get.
Cannabidiol.
Okay,
Vitros.
we are of course. Everyone can see the clan tag. I don't know why we're not talking about it. I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, everyone can see it. Regardless, in the top right, his opponent trying to take game 2, tie it up, give himself a chance in this series, and of course, try and qualify in the end of this night onto the quarterfinals. It is your Green Zerg player.
440 Gaming, the Giant Gnome.
So yeah, again we saw Vitros go for that slightly earlier pull than Giant Gnome and getting lings across the map. Will they be able to do as much damage as they did last time? I don't think so. Giant Gnome seems a little bit more ready for it. He's got pretty much the same number of lings out himself. But very nice save by the Giant Gnome, turning his drone into extractor. The lings do get into the main though, but they'll just if they stop, they'll just be killed by the other lings, and the queens are out now. So yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah, good micro early on from the Giant Gnome, making sure he's not losing more than he needs to. Of course, what is it? Only like 17 minerals that you lose with the extractor trick.
It's 7. The 17 is how much you get back.
They're gonna redo it. They're coming back with it, or?
What do you mean?
No. Oh, you get 17 back. Okay, so you only lose 7 minerals. That's right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's actually only not bad at all. Losing very minimal to what was a little bit of a poke and prod from Vitros. Of course, not too much of an all-in. We do have a spine crawler going down for Vitros at his natural as he starts to get his creep spread going with his queens, and of course they're going to be hitting those injects and trying to do all the lovely things that Zerg players do. And the first big play of the game coming from the Giant Gnome is he's taking an early 3rd hatchery.
Yeah, and we were talking about this when we had a load of ZVZs earlier. Giant Gnome obviously has had a little bit of a scout over, or has seen something actually. Yeah, actually, this is a bit brave from the Giant Gnome. I sort of assumed he'd seen what his opponent was doing, but he hasn't. Maybe he just knows how Vitros plays, and against a gasless expand, like what Vitros is doing, he'll be completely safe in taking this 3rd. But I don't know. Yeah, does Vitros always? Does he always play gasless?
He just opened. He has 2 gas on his natural.
Yeah, but only just now. Gasless opener.
Right. Well, I mean, he's pretty close to getting his Roach Warren done. So I don't know how much is the. I mean, Roach Warren is not too much gas. It's just minerals actually. I don't know why I thought it was gas. So yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, so he did go gasless. I don't recall completely whether whether or not Vitros goes gasless. As often as a lot of players, I guess, would do, because Penguin is the one who's showing off the gasless openers last night. And what? We do have the Giant Gnome, like you were talking about, and this is something that the Terran player Flash does. If he goes and he scouts an early CC, when he goes home, he just makes 2 CCs. So it's like, okay, you're going to try and cut some, go right into early macro. Well, I'm going to one-up you because you're in the mindset of staying at home and defending and trying to get your macro up. Well, I'm going to seize the initiative and just go ahead and double your macro play.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vitros is going to try and respond in kind. Of course, the Roaches will be really nice. Whilst they're great defensively, they shouldn't be able to get that much damage done across the map. Vitros is going to send them anywhere, though, to see what they can do. And the Giant Gnome has a ton of Roach in production, because obviously he's been mining gas for a lot longer. He's been banking that up, and he's spending it on his clear reconstitution. He's already got his lair up. Yeah, of course, he's got his Roach speed on the way. And yeah, the Giant Gnome should have absolutely no trouble deflecting this little poke out from Vitros.
Yeah, he does have, of course, enough Roaches of his own to defend. We do have +1 attack coming down for both of these players. Missile attacks, of course. 5 more Roaches on the way from the Giant Gnome, just to make sure he's going to be able to hold this 3rd. And the early 3rd, how much of a difference is this going to pay if the Giant Gnome is able to stick with his macro, keep his supply going, get his drone numbers high? Is it going to be able to really pay out, or is it not that big a deal?
Well, at the minute, he's not using it for any kind of macro at all, other than
larva production.
Larva production. And this could be a bit scary for Vitros. He doesn't have that much in the way of defense. He's got one spine crawler, which he has relocated to his third, which I think is a really great decision. And of course, he has the ZVZ defense advantage. So I don't think Vitros is going to have too much trouble holding this off.
Yeah, and it's kind of going both ways. I think both players not intent on pushing a lot and losing a lot. They're just kind of seeing what the other opponent has. But just as I say that, the Giant Gnome is funneling a lot more of these roaches across the map. Mm-hmm. Do you think Pardon me, I had to sneeze. The attack coming in. Roaches going up the natural ramp. Do you agree with this attack?
I think the Giant Gnome has to do something because he missed out on a couple of rounds of droning to get these roaches out. And what he's going to try and do is focus on the roach one. If he gets roach speed, that's going to be a really, really nice pickup. It's going to be quite a long time for Vitros gets that back up, not to mention all the lost production on roaches. So if the Giant Gnome was still committing to roaches, he is actually just finishing up 11 more. So these roaches aren't going to have any kind of answer by Vitros. Like, Vitros can't build roaches. He has to build lings against these, and the roaches should tear through those absolutely. So if the Giant Gnome pressed his attack, I feel like he could get a fair bit of damage done here. And already, like, Vitros has had to sort of panic build a lot of slow lings as well. He never got ling speed in response to this, and throw down a bit of the panic spine crawler as third. So yeah, that was a really nice pickoff by
so not only is he picking off the roach one, but he's got a 20. Okay, the supply lead just went in the opposite direction because the larva just popped out for the Zerglings. But the Giant Gnome's army +2 is a little bit away from finishing off, and I think he's gonna pull back, and he's got 45 seconds, I think, until that finishes up. So he's gonna wait until that finishes, I think, until it goes in, because Zerg, the player Vitros, is still now he's getting in a massive amount of roaches because his roach warren finished up. But I mean, now he doesn't really have the advantage anymore, and he had a little bit of a timing gap there, and the window's closed, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I think the Giant Gnome could have really done something while Vitros was still hurting from having lost his roach run. But of course, as soon as that roach run was back up, 15 roaches immediately in production. That's how larval production works. And then the Giant Gnome, they're back up to not even equal army supplies. The Vitros is a good 12 or so ahead. Of course, a lot of that is in slow lings. So in the actual roach counts, they're much more even, but Vitros still has a 5 roach lead.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see where either of these two players come, and try and make something happen. I guess you go from here and say, okay, maybe I'll take an earlier 4th if I'm not gonna push the advantage, because you gotta say, well, I've got to keep the advantage. A macro hatchery going down in the main of Giant Gnome. Meanwhile, Vitros getting his infestation pit earlier. I don't think we saw an infestation pit go down for the Giant Gnome as of yet.
No, the Giant Gnome actually went for Hydralisk instead, which I think are going to serve him better in the...
in this, right here.
In
right?
this engagement, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And Vitros trying to move up the ramp, but he's got a lot of roaches still. I don't know, the Giant Gnome really has the army count for those Hydralisks to do their best, but more coming in the back, he's keep protecting them pretty well. But there's a lot of roaches dancing around in the back for the Giant Gnome, not really doing stuff. And Vitros is pushing forwards on top of the Giant Gnome's army, and he's going to smash through this. I think the Giant Gnome should be able to clean this up with reinforcements, but this is definitely not how he wanted this fight to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, supply is kind of going around left and right, but now Vitros is down in quite a large number in supply, and that was, I think, the lings you saw. So in the end, it looked like Giant Gnome was on the back, and it really looks like he was able to win the end of that engagement. More roaches on the way, but is Vitros a little bit all in here? I don't know. I mean, 13 roaches on the way for the Giant Gnome. He's going to have defender's advantage, and if he is able to push this back about as well as he pushed that back, maybe a bit more with the supporting hydrants, he might have a foot in this game, and he's, I think Vitros realizing that, sees the army he's up against, is going to pull back. Yeah,
I think the Giant Gnome actually handled that really well. I thought I thought that Vitros was going to smash through there, but the Giant Gnome moved his Hydralisk around really, really nicely, and there were 3 or 4 of them that kept putting out that DPS throughout the whole engagement, and in this much smaller numbers, that really, really mattered a bit more.
Yeah.
And Vitros isn't particularly all in, because both players have a fairly comfortable number of drones for ZVZ right now. So it's just going to be roaches and maybe Hydralisks from here on out until they start mining out bases, and maybe they'll start to consider taking 4th bases. The Giant Gnome is actually going to take a gold base, which means he could even possibly sack some drones and just use the increased income from the gold base, or the fewer number of drones needed to get the same income from the gold base to sort of support a slightly larger army, which could be quite nice.
Yeah, we're going to see what the Giant Gnome's next move is. Sniping a bit of an overseer there, I think, to make sure his army is not completely scouted. He is going to take the gold. It is spotted from Vitros that he's doing this, but I think he's going to push out here, and he's, we're going to see where this engagement takes it. Don't push up a ramp like that blindly. He is going to get the Overseer out ahead just to see what he's up against. Of course, he has Hydras, and the Vitros has Hydras coming along, but nowhere near the numbers that the Giant Gnome has. And of course, the upgrades are going to be an advantage of the Giant Gnome with his Hydras as well. We do have 2 attacks versus 2-1. So it's 2-0 versus 2-1, and he's going to go ahead and get a cancel on that. I wonder if Vitros is going to go for the throat here, or if he's... You know what? Now the armies is switching. I think the Giant Gnome has a more advantageous army position now.
Yeah, he absolutely does. All the Hydras for Vitros in the wrong position, and
holy cow.
Giant Gnome taking a fantastic engagement here. Vitros has good reinforcement routes, making a nice concave, but right now the Giant Gnome is collapsing onto Vitros' army and really pushing that forward. Fantastic engagement.
Why did he swing his army down near the natural? Like, he went around the other way. Maybe he was thinking about going and pressure that third, and now he's going to take another fight up his own natural. He's trying to fight back to his own hatchery, so the Giant Gnome can do this all day. He's got his army now in the choke point, forcing Vitros to come in, but you know what? Now the surround, and Vitros waiting for that engagement, and the Hydras in the back are able to put out a lot of DPS, but so many roaches here for Vitros. But look at the supply. Giant Gnome is able to reconsolidate his army back home, and he's going to send another attack here in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, Giant Gnome remaxing almost instantly while getting Hive up, while researching his +1 armor, and he's in a really good position. Vitros is going to try and push out across the map, but if he arrived there like right now, he'd already meet a roach force that could contend with his own. And he sees that with his Overseer, actually, and backs out. So there's not that much he can do. He's going to try and take up his own gold base to answer this, but the Giant Gnome has had his for a little while longer, and Infestors coming out of Vitros are going to be difference in army that he can try and push. So the AoE damage helps a little bit, but mainly it's if you can fungal your opponent and then pull back a little bit and sort of use it almost like a force field, something that's cutting to sector his army off. But the Giant Gnome's going to move across here. Vitros
what are you peeping for? We're going to find out what the pause is about, ladies and gentlemen. As Saber is going to go and find out. He's going to lose this engagement. He's like right at the engagement. That's a really, really weird time to pause it. I'm not saying anything's going down, but like, well, yeah, you're going to lose this engagement, Vitros. It's not, we're going to see what happens here, but these roaches getting right on top of the army, and you know what? That. Goodbye.
Giant Gnome getting all around this, and Vitros.
Giant Gnome taking game 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that we've got that out of the way, we do, of course, have the most important thing in the world right now, which is, of course, ASL StarCraft, and it's live.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on Daybreak for this the ace match of this ZVZ series, rather, and the winning game 2 pretty handily on Overgrowth, spawning in the top right-hand corner, trying to get into the winner's match for the tonight. It is your Green Zerg player.
440 Gaming, the Giant Gnome.
And his opponent down the bottom left-hand corner of Daybreak, we have our Red Zerg player.
Cannabidiol Vitros.
I think I saw Vitros go for a 14 hatch or a 13 hatch. Do you know
that's
what
interesting.
Yeah, it looked like it seemed like it was early. Maybe he missed a drone or something like that, like along the way. I don't really know what happened there. It seemed like he stopped producing drones, but I think it was a 14 hatch in the end. And now he's getting, of course, he's got a spawning pool out and he's getting his queens out. Not too much craziness, but it seemed a little weird. I don't know. 14 hatch seems a little. Of course, it's just 14 compared to 15, but it's something I've never seen before.
Yeah, apparently I heard. I've never actually done any maths on it myself, but apparently the greediest hatch a Zerg player can go for is the 13 hatch. You have to cut a few drones, but I think it works out that way because you end up with like 3 larvae spawning just as you start the hatch, so you don't actually lose any larval production.
Oh wow,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting to see just the little variations that can play out in games like this. And I hope we see this one go a bit more into the mid-late game because any quick deaths, though they are exciting, do not show what I believe to be the true skill of these two players. And we're going to have, you know, just in general, good scouting on the way. Both players getting their overlords out. Giant Gnome taking a Xel'Naga Watchtower in the middle with these two lings here. Not really any poking and prodding like we saw from the first two games out of these two players.
Yeah, no, Vitros has changed his style up a bit, which is nice. He's still going for that gas expand, but he's not gone for the fast 6 lings sending across the map to try and do some massing. And Giant Gnome is going to get into the main base here, just with the ling on just a few hit points. He's going to see that there's no gas at the very least, which is important. He knows his gas expand, and there we go. We see the drone immediately going down to the third base to try and take a quick third. Now, I talked a little bit about this a couple of days ago, and I think it's a little bit hard to do this on Daybreak.
Right.
Because that third is so far away. The creep spread means your queens can't get down there to defend. So if and the other player has a bit faster of a rush route to your third than they do towards your natural. So I think it's a little bit hard to do this in response to a gas expand on Daybreak, but the Giant Gnome should still be fine, basically, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay too. Saber, I think we might be missing a little bit of game sound. If not, maybe just go ahead and check on that. Some players in Twitch chat. Of course, if it's not working for you, refresh your Twitch, and it will be working, hopefully. So we do have, now that we're addressing that, we do have upgrades on the way, +1 missile attack. So it looks like it's going to be pretty much the same exact style of game, at least. Maybe we'll see how it pans out in the end, but the same style as the original two. Or the first two matches, that is, or the games, I suppose, whatever you want to call them. Yeah,
this is, pretty similar. Vitros, both players sort of macroing up a lot more and skipping over the ling battles. In fact, did Giant Gnome even get ling speed? No, neither players have got ling speed, so they're just going straight for the roaches. Yeah, they both know what they like, and pardon me, obviously they stick with it pretty well. Vitros. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. We're just actually getting a lair at the natural, which will mean that the Giant Gnome probably won't scout this, I think, which is pretty important. You do see lairs at the natural occasionally, more usually against Terran and sometimes against Protoss, but I think it's quite unusual to get it against Zerg. But I guess with a gasless expand, you're generally going to have that wall up if you think your opponent's going to pressure your natural. So that's pretty cool. Vitros could well go for Mutelist off the back of this, but what am I saying? What were we talking about last game? He's had tons of missile attacks. He's invested into roach speed. He is, of course, going for roaches, and those are going to be arriving at Giant Gnome's third base right now. But yeah, the Giant Gnome has those roaches there. He was fine. All is good with the world. Wonderful.
Yeah, and we are going to see this progress a little bit more into the late game. It's, of course, the minute 9, so you could call this the mid game. Coming out of the early game. And that is the difference that we saw. Nothing happening in the early game. Both of these players content to go ahead and macro. And of course, I want to go back to the earlier point. Before this, actually, you might have to get right into this engagement. Actually, roaches versus roaches here, right on top of this third. And there's too many here for Giant Gnome to handle. He's going to have to pull back.
Yeah, Vitros committed a little bit more heavily to roaches than he did in the last game. And I don't think it's quite going to pay off. The Giant Gnome with the extra reinforcement rate and the Queen firing away is going to break through this. And, of course, the Giant Gnome has speed quite a bit faster than Vitros. So Vitros knows he couldn't very well move back. He had to trade. Those roaches were dead anyway. So he did quite wisely just leave them there, let them die, traded for a couple of extra roaches of the Giant Gnome. But you know, that's quite nice, actually. Looking at the army supply, the Giant Gnome has like a 40 supply advantage. Of course, that should change fairly soon when Vitros starts producing workers again, because he's got quite a... Sorry, starts producing army again, because he's got quite a worker lead. The Giant Gnome is languishing a little bit, about 20 workers behind.
I hate having to bring up things that players do poorly, but it seems to be a bit of a trend that Giant Gnome is getting supply blocked in a couple of rough positions. Vitros being a bit more aggressive, and when he pressures earlier, he tends to lose the engagements as we've seen so far in the series. But it seems like the Giant Gnome, though he might take a victory here or there, instantly gets supply blocked after really key points where he needs to be remaxing as quickly as possible and getting an advantage, and he's not able to do that as efficiently because of the supply block. But an engagement going on here, and it looks like the Giant Gnome might be able to take the early advantage here. Not as many roaches for Vitros in the concave, though it is successful. Now he's having to pull drones, and if he loses these drones, where does he go from here? Roaches versus drones is not what you ever want to see, and the Giant Gnome is taking a huge supply lead. Oh my god.
Yeah, the reinforcements coming in for Vitros. I don't think actually they're even going to be able to clean this up. The Giant Gnome has so many roaches there, and he's got his own reinforcements coming in. And Vitros just has roaches coming in dribs and drabs. Behind the wall, though, no, he still doesn't have enough, I don't think. No. Is the Giant Gnome just going to win it here?
Yes, he is. He's totally going to press on. And you know what? We were talking about, I was going to bring this up earlier. The lair is 500 more hit points, and that would give you the little extra maybe survival rating. But the Roach Warren down, he's going to come back here and consolidate with the Roaches here. And he's just going to keep pressing up here. And he has the Roach numbers. He sees what he's up against. He's not scared at all. He gets right in on top of Vitros' Roaches. And, well, they start puking their acid, I don't know what you call it, puke on the other Roaches. And you know what? He's just going to continue doing this. He's going to get surrounded a little bit here, but his reinforcements are going to come help out as well.
Yeah, they absolutely are. There's tons of tiny little battles, and Vitros can't produce any roaches here. He can only produce Hydralisks, producing 10 Hydralisks. Hydralisks are great, but they just don't do very well versus roaches on their own. They don't have enough health. They need the tanking, that roach support, to actually have any kind of advantage. And GG, Vitros goes down.